Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 34 of Direwolf20's Let's Play series. I am getting ready to mess around with some more Ars Magica. So I think I promised you guys I would get the components ahead of time ready to go so I can show you what's involved in crafting some of this cool stuff. So there's a couple things we need to get. First off, I need to get myself a focus for the Magitek Staff. This is an important staff for Ars Magica because it allows you to read how much of the energy is stored in that Essence Nexus. You remember last episode I made an Essence Nexus, just the basic, middle tier one, the one that requires Essence. So in order for this to work, we need a Mana Focus, a stick, and some Chimerite. Chimerite, of course, we find underground. So let me just grab one of those. I think I forgot to grab one of them. There we go. Just request that real quick. Cool. So that's, pretty easy to make. So Chimerite, and we need a stick. And in order for this to work, we actually have to upgrade this guy to a Mana Focus. So we have to take the lesser focus we just made, surrounded by redstone, and then go ahead and upgrade that to the Mana Focus, which requires some Vintium dust. All right, so let me get a couple pieces of redstone as well. So yeah, I got most of what I need. Cool. So that's pretty much what we're looking at getting here. There we go. So let me upgrade this guy from lesser focus to standard focus. And then a couple Vintium dust gets us up to the full-blown Mana Focus. There's a bunch of different foci from this thing. If we took a look at focus here, we'd see lesser, standard, greater, mana, charge, player, monster, item, creature, all kinds of cool stuff that we'll definitely check out down the road. So we've got our Magitek Staff. That's one of the first things we definitely want to have. Something else I want to get here is this nifty little gadget. This guy is the Crystal Wrench. This is the way you're going to interact with your machines a bit, and you're going to be able to do a couple different cool things with it. I'll show you kind of how that works in a moment here. So I think those are the two things we want to get, but what I wouldn't mind getting is a tool rack. These tool racks are very definitely useful, so I'm going to want some iron, just one, and we're going to want a couple of these things. Just around this guy here. Tool rack. Nice. That's from Bibliocraft, and it's awesome. I like to have these in my Ars Magica room just because it's a nice place to store your tools, especially when you don't need to I don't need my crystal wrench to be carried around all the time, so it'll be cool to have. So we'll just pop this guy right up here. So when we don't need these tools, it's really nice and easy. We just right-click into the tool rack, and they'll just kind of hang out up there, looking good, being useful, but for now we actually do need them, so we right-click to get them to drop. Okay, so the Magitek Staff, like I said, right click on the center block, it'll tell you how much essence is inside. So you can see this thing's only filled up to 1%. It's detected about 6,800, it looks like, mana essence stored up in there, which is going to be plenty. Because for our first spell that we want to make, which we can see here, we only need about 500 neutral essence. Cool. We'll probably also make a light nexus this episode too, but we'll get to that. So there's a couple things I want to get started with. Why don't I make sure I've got all the components I need? I'm pretty sure I do, in order to get us set up with our first spell. And we'll be back in a minute to start making it. Alright, so let's take a look. What do we have to do? Well, in order to get this spell, first off we have to gather all the components, materials that are listed in the book. Now, you can also ahead of time kind of figure out what material components you're going to need if you look at your Arcane Compendium, because for every spell it'll tell you what you need to do. So any spell that's going to have the self component is going to need a lesser focus, some Vintium dust, and an Alm. Cool. Now for components here, we can see heal requires a green rune and another Alm, so we're going to need 2 Alm. Okay, and then regeneration requires a blue rune and a golden apple. Cool. So anytime you make a spell of regeneration, it's going to require those things. So if we look in here, we'll see that we definitely require 2 Alm, a Vintium dust, a lesser focus, a blue rune, a golden apple, and a green rune. Cool, makes sense. And we've got 500 neutral essence in there as well. I forget where that comes from. Probably somewhere. One of these guys might need it. Or it's maybe just a component of having different things. I don't know. I don't know where the neutral essence comes in, but it's there, as you can see. Oh, we unlocked a lot of blocks. I have to look at all these things. Cool. Oh, a gateway. I definitely want to make one of those. Those are cool. All right, we can also see the essence system here, how different essences work and the way things behave and that kind of different stuff and the different types of Nexi and what they do. So we'll take a look at that when we get into the machines. For now, we're making our first spell. So to begin, you just place your spellbook on the lectern right here, and you can see what you need to throw and in what order. Anytime you make a spell, the very first thing you're going to drop in there is a blank rune. And the very last thing you're going to drop in there is a spell parchment, and that's where the spell gets written to. So blank runes are pretty easy to make. I made them ahead of time here. If we take a look, it's just some cobblestone. Really pretty easy. So we'll toss one in. The first time we toss it in, you'll see a whole bunch of particle effects starting up, and that means that your spell process has begun. The lectern here is going to tell you the next item that needs to be thrown into the crafting altar in order to get this running. So let's go ahead and toss in the first Yoink. All right, after that's tossed in, you'll see it's requesting some Vintium dust. So just drop a piece of Vintium dust in there, and it'll kind of get eaten up as it goes, okay? Then we need to get one of those lesser runes, which I'm pretty sure I brought this stuff in here with me for. There we go. So we can toss that guy in. Ta-da! Now it needs the energy. When this little sparkle particle thing happens here, it means it requires energy. In order to get this nifty gadget here linked up, we just right-click on this thing, and it'll create this big white beam coming out. That means that it's currently active. And then we right-click on the altar here to say, connect this energy nexus straight up to this altar. And boom. It should be connected. In order to tell the altar to start drawing energy, we flip the lever. And it should start sending a beam of energy straight over. And then it moves on to the next thing, a blue rune. Cool. Well, I've got a rune, and in order to get any rune, you just combine a die with a blank rune, and you get your blue rune. Cool. Next up, we need a golden apple. All right, how do we get those again? It's gold blocks. Okay, neat. Or gold ingots. I was ready to do it with gold nuggets. Let me just request real quick 7 gold. Cool. And we'll get ourselves a golden apple. So yeah, most of the stuff ready. Ta-da! Green rune is next. And then the second Alm. And finally, the spell parchment. And when we toss that in there, we should get, ta-da, our first spell. Hooray! Now, if I right-click on this guy, the first time you right-click on it, you're able to see what it's called. Now, you can change that if you want. So I can just call it, like, Regen Heal if I want. And you can also specify a little particle effect down here. So you can, or a little icon for what the spell scroll looks like. So we can really give it any one of these icons that we want. Because it's going to heal me a bit, I'm going to go ahead and go with one of these little green hearts. That looks cool. And then hit Escape, and you've got your first spell. You can see it on your hand there, ready to cast. Now, because I set this UI up so that it only shows the user interface for Ars Magica when I have a spell active, you can now see what it looks like. So anything else on my hand, I don't see the user interface for Ars Magica, but when I do have a spell here, we can see my mana, burnout levels, and experience. Cool. If we mouse over the spell, we'll see how much it costs to cast. So it costs 46 mana to cast this spell. Neat. So I ran outside and got a little bit of damage just by jumping up in the air and dropping. Let's go ahead and try casting the Regen Heal spell. Right click. Ta-da! Now you can see that I just gained a bit of experience and some levels for doing that. Nice. So I'm here, I've got some experience. Wow, bumped me up to level 4 already. That's pretty cool. So we can see I got some burnout and some mana drained out of that. So if we look at our burnout level, you can see what burnout does is it makes spells cost more. So the more rapidly you cast a spell, the more it's going to cost. So if you just like spam fireballs over and over again, those fireballs are going to get more and more expensive. But burnout just reduces itself over time. It's not too bad a deal. If we want to cast again, simply right click again, and ta-da! We got some other stuff. Now I got up to level 5. So every time you cast a spell, you're going to get experience. But again, spamming it isn't going to be too useful. There's a bit of a cooldown. Every time you cast, there's like diminishing returns on experience gains. And I think it's about 15 or 20 seconds before it, that was cool, decides to be a problem. So yeah, 15 or 20 seconds, and then your spell should be, the cooldown period has finished, and you can cast again. You'll get full experience. But of course, don't think you shouldn't cast the spell again if you need it. Go ahead and cast, and you'll get experience again. So I'm going to right-click again, and we just got up to level 6. So it's real easy to gain levels early on, but later on it's going to get a little bit more difficult. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, as you unlock stuff in the Arcane Compendium, we'll see all kinds of new things showing up in here. So we can see gaining magic levels, obtaining skill points, dungeons and exploring, all kinds of cool stuff here that I'm going to more or less talk to you guys about instead of reading off. So we've got a bunch of blocks I need to clear out, a bunch of items. Let's see, affinities and enchantments. So I should tell you guys about affinities, because those are actually kind of important. Different affinities, based on how often you cast certain types of spells, adjusts your affinity a little bit. And you can see it, I believe, in the Oculus here, your affinity tab at the top. So right now, because I've been casting healing spells, I've been getting the pacifist affinity a bit. So we can see I've got about 0.26. I've only cast it a few times. So the more I cast it, and I'm also getting the harvester a little bit, because I guess I'm some kind of spell there that's making that happen. But this thing will slowly start to move out. Affinities kind of have pros and cons to them. So the life affinity, I think it is, will cause you to very slowly regenerate additional life, and the regen speed is directly related to your depth. So the more you have, the more regen you'll get. But due to your close size with life, anytime you kill something, it makes you sick and nauseated for a while. So that's not too good. So there's a couple different affinities here you can take a look at. The nature affinity, for example, does different things. It'll give you thorns, I think, by default. Fire affinity is pretty neat. All kinds of cool stuff. You can check out what the affinities do. So the more you cast certain types of spells, the more of an affinity you'll have for that magic. Okay, so if I sit here and just keep casting this spell over and over again, I'm going to get lots and lots of that life thing. We can also see there's some enchantments that get added here. Let's see, I keep unlocking things, and I keep wondering what I'm unlocking because I didn't clear out my book yet. Cool. So we've got some stuff. Let me clear out my book a little bit, and then we'll be back. So the other thing you might notice is as I'm gaining levels here, oh, out of mana. My burnout's high too. But I'm getting close. You might have noticed there too, if you were paying attention, I got a bunch of experience the first time I cast, but not as much the second time I cast. That's that diminishing returns thing. Let's see, am I almost at the point where I have enough? No, not even close. But as I gain experience, I'm also gaining more skill points to unlock different things within the tree. I've got 3 blue skill points available to me now. So I can start unlocking some more and interesting things. So if I wanted to, I could unlock more in the defense tree, like the ability to jump higher, eventually getting down to slow fall and haste and slow, and all kinds of other cool stuff. Or I could start looking into the utility tree, where I can get a dig spell that'll automatically dig as a casted spell. Now what's cool about dig, by the way, is you can make a projectile dig, and it'll like shoot out a little projectile, and whatever it hits gets dug up. That's really pretty neat and useful. There's a light spell that creates little light particles wherever you cast it at. There's night vision, so all kinds of useful and cool stuff that you can play with. I'm thinking maybe I want to start delving into offense. So let's jump down the offensive tree and build ourselves a nice little fire damage spell or magic damage. Ooh, good question. What do I want to throw on there? Let's try fire damage. All right, so in order to get this, we just have to get ourselves another book here that we can write. So what I'm probably going to want is, let's request a chest. And while we're at it, we'll get some books. I'll get like 10 of them for now. Ink, how am I doing for ink? Not so hot. I'll get all 5. And feathers, ooh, I've got plenty of feathers, because I'm farming those. And we'll just put together some books here ready to be written. So we'll do you, you, and you. And then, come here, you guys. You and you can go in there for now. That looks good. So I'll get my first book and quill, and we'll get ourselves our first offensive damage spell. So for this to work, we just need to break a projectile spell that gives fire damage. That sounds nice and simple, right? Yeah, I like the sound of that. And we'll name it Basic Fire. Cool. Yoink. Pull that out. Now, if you wanted to, you could have this spell be more complicated. If you wanted, you could have it set up to like do a fire projectile and then also heal you, like at the same time. So you can combine those things. Oh, you know what else we should make? We should make... Let's get ourselves another one of those filing cabinets. So I'm going to need, what, 3 chests and 6 iron? Chest, 1, 2, 3, and iron. 6. All right, we'll give that a minute, because what you want to do is you want to hang on to your books. I mean, you don't really need to save them. You could destroy this thing. You don't ever need it again unless you want to make the spell again. Maybe you lost the spell and you want to make it again, so you can go ahead and do that. Or you can, of course, always just rewrite it. So it's not important to keep these things, but it's also not a terribly bad idea. So you might want to do it. So here we go. Filing cabinet. Because these are all the same item, we can definitely do this with filing cabinets. So we'll put our regen heal book in here. You know, they're all the same item, they're just different, you know, details on them. So let's see, what do we have to get here? We need a blank rune, Vintium dust, that shouldn't be a problem. Vintium dust, yeah, we still got 2 of them. Cool. We need an arrow and a snowball. Ooh, do we have snowballs? That's a good question. Arrows I know we'll be able to get, no problem. Snow, yeah, we do. Cool, request that. All right, what else do we need to get? Red rune, so we need some rose red, and then we need flint and steel. That shouldn't be a problem. Rose red. Oh, do I have no roses in my system? Cool. Let me run outside and get one of those, and I'll request a flint and iron for while I'm at it. All right, let me go find a rose. I'm sure there's plenty out here somewhere. Back in a minute. So let's do it, shall we? So once again, same kind of process, right? Just start throwing stuff in there. Now, if you wanted to, you could kind of just throw everything that you know you need to have at one time, because it'll sit there and wait. So for example, if I wanted to get my red rune and throw it in there before it's asking for it, it'll sit there and wait. Now let's see, I had a couple things in here that I requested, so we'll make sure to put together our flint and steel. So we'll kind of toss these guys in, and what it'll do is it'll kind of just grab it all as needed. So you can see it just grabbed all of them in order of when they were needed. So another Vintium dust, and then finally the spell scroll. Hooray! So I can right-click this guy. He's basic fire. We'll just use a small little fireball, because he's really nothing special. There's much better spells we're going to get in the future. Hey, it's nighttime out there. Let's start shooting things with fireballs. What do you say? Aw, it's daytime again. That's okay. We can still shoot something like a sheep. Haha, nice. So these things, they don't do a terribly large amount of damage early on, but they will do more damage, you know, as you progress in your spell career. I think the higher level you are, the more damage it's going to do. And oh boy, it looks like somebody needs a repair. Okay, I need to repair this woodcutter real quick. So nice and easy, just gotta drop 2 of these guys into the woodcutter. There we are. It'll start repairing. We'll be in good shape. You know what? I'll even throw a 3rd one in there, just so it's ready to go next time it needs to, I guess. It'll use that. Awesome. Better also hook him up with some coal so that he can start running as soon as he can. So we'll grab a couple. So you can see we've he's probably been stuck for a little while here, which is why. There you go. Nice. Which is why our surplus has kind of started to dwindle. We need a bit more coal and a bit more saplings. No big deal. I'm actually interested. I want to show you guys real quick. I want to see how we are doing with our mana bean production. Just because it's been a while that it's been running, I want to check on it real quick. And then we'll get into some more Ars Magica stuff, I promise. I just want to take a quick look. Oh, look at that. So we've got almost, I'm sure we've got every type of mana bean, and we've got about 33 of each. So we've got a ton of mana beans. That is awesome. That is exactly what I want to have. Perfect. So this is going to go a long way towards, you know, eventually. That's nice. And it's even in order. That's so cool. Like how it keeps it in alphabetical order of the type of stuff. That is neat. Oh, we've even got a couple unknown mana bean aspects. Neat. I'll teach you guys a trick, by the way, while I'm here that I recently discovered. If you eat a mana bean that has an unknown aspect on it, nom 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 nom. Sometimes you get all kinds of random bonuses and stuff. Like silence, mana regen, entangled, invisibility. That's cool. So eating these gives you like a random effect. I thought it also gave you like research points towards that aspect, but it doesn't seem to be doing it. Maybe you need to have like the precursors to it at first. I don't know. Ah, I got poisoned. So careful eating them, because sometimes, you know, crazy things. But pretty neat. Sometimes if you eat it, you get like research points. Maybe that's only in the newer version. I'm not sure. Hey, I got hurt. Let's heal myself. Yay! Experience. All right, let's take a look at building ourselves. You know what I would like next is a light nexus and maybe a couple basic machines from Ars Magica. That sounds like a plan. All Alright guys, we're back. So I'm ready to make my first light nexus. Now there's a couple different options you have when it comes to a nexus. Especially a light nexus gives you even more flexibility. So the basic nexus that we've created so far is pretty much the way it has to be built. Okay, so if we take a look at the essence nexus, you really only have one option. Stone bricks and chiseled stone bricks and the centerpiece there. But a light nexus has multiple options. You can always need 4 or 8 blocks of quartz here, right? So 2 and there's 4 in the corners, right? So total of 8 blocks of quartz. So you're always going to need that. But then the caps are kind of up to you. You can go glass, gold, diamond, or moonstone. Now, diamond and moonstone are the most efficient ones to go with, but there is a slight difference between them, and that being that if you use moonstone, that will charge the essence nexus during the night. If you use anything else, glass, gold, or diamond, it'll charge the essence nexus during the day. And it's basically a steady, small trickle of power. Now I'm going with golden caps because I don't really have the diamonds required to make diamond caps, so it's definitely a faster energy gain if you use diamond over gold. But we just don't have the resources for that right now. Something else I wouldn't mind making is called a mana battery. This guy's pretty nifty. So for this, we're going to need some chimerite and some more Ventium dust, easy to make, but Arcane Ash. That one's a little bit more tricky. We have to get some netherrack, some smoothstone, some glowstone, and some redstone. So let's get a couple of these. Let's get like 10 glowstone, 10 netherrack, and 10. That all sounds like a good number, right? There we go, almost. Spewing stuff all over the place, Mr. Pipe. I'm going to have to think about doing something about that. I don't know why that is all of a sudden shooting everywhere. Cool. So once you get those guys set up, toss them in any kind of furnace here, and you'll get yourself some Arcane Ash. It's kind of a higher tier of stuff. So let's also get some, whatchamacallit, blocks. What are those things called again? Ventium. Let's get 34 of them. That sounds like a good random number that I just picked out of nowhere. Throw this into the smelter. This way I can start getting started with a mana battery. So it has somewhere to store this energy that we're going to request. And chimerite, we're going to need 4. Cool. Alright, so let's get ourselves a mana battery. Nice! Achievement get. Entry unlocked. Nifty. Let's see. Foci, and fire elemental I unlocked. Okay, so that seems like a good start. So let's get this thing set up so that it starts going. Now, as you start to gain magical levels, by the way, you're also going to encounter more magical beings showing up nearby. You'll find some light mages, which are good, some dark mages, which are not so good and not so friendly, and a bunch more enemies too. So kind of the higher the level you are, the more you're going to encounter these guys. So let's see, you are 2 blocks away, so let's start building this here. 1, 2, 3, right up against the wall. Sounds like a good place to do it. And then, of course, we're also going to need some chalk, which I didn't prepare. That's okay. We'll get that going now. It's pretty easy. Let's see if I can remember what it's going to be off the top of my head without looking it up. Where are you? So I'm probably going to want some flint, some clay. We're going to want some bone meal, paper, and what the heck else? Alright, now I have to look it up. Oh, Arcane Ash. Okay, well I've got one of those, so I'm good. And right in the center again. Again, it's going to, show up and start spinning if it's working, and it does a really nice job. We can check the energy gain. It's slowly but surely filling up with energy here. Nice. So it doesn't have to see the sunlight, but it definitely only runs during the day. Once we hit night, it's going to stop creating energy, but then once it's day again, it'll start up again. So not a problem. Cool. So we've got our first thing here. I'm going to set down the mana battery. I guess, where do I want this thing to be? Thinking maybe like right here might not be a bad spot for it. And in order to attune these things, there's 2 things we're going to need to do. Okay, let's first off hit with the crystal wrench, get that beam going, right click this thing, you'll see it changes color to indicate that now it's a light energy mana battery. And if you want it to start absorbing energy, you just have to apply a redstone signal to it. Cool. And you'll know it's working. It's usually only draws after there's about 1,000 in the nexus. That's when it'll wait to start drawing energy over. So once we hit about 1,000 here, it should start. There it goes. Cool. So it just sent a packet of energy over. And we can see now that there's 1,000 in there, and this guy is charging up again. So this will store just more energy. So basically, because this thing's so slow, we'll leave it be for a little while. We'll come back. We'll have a bunch of energy sitting right here inside our mana battery. Might want to move this guy. I'm pretty sure when we move him, it doesn't look like it, but it will actually retain the charge. See, he's still got energy in him. Still 1,000. We might need to reattune these things, though. So let's do that. Cool. I like it. I want to move this thing because I'm probably going to have some machines along the wall here, and you can go right there for now. Cool. So we've got a light nexus. We've got a neutral nexus. We will eventually build a dark nexus. We're probably going to have to move some stuff over here. I'll rearrange once we get ready to build that. But the dark nexus is going to require a little bit more effort before we can start messing with that. All right, just a point, don't leave excess reinforced metal here because it looks like he's not going to start moving until this slot's empty. So don't put extra in there. My bad. All right, there's one more machine I think I want to try and get to before we have to wrap up the episode here, and that is going to require a couple pieces of purple dye and a diamond. Now this machine's pretty cheap to craft, but it actually does cost a bit to run, so keep that in mind. It's not the most cheap thing in the world. So let's bring this Arcane Reconstructor down into our workshop. There we go. And you can probably sit right along the back wall here. Let's see. Trying to exactly plan how I want this thing to eventually be mapped out. Let's put you here. And you'll see some energy packets going from our mana battery, so we can see this thing sending its energy straight over to the Arcane Reconstructor, which is also absorbing it. Now, this thing doesn't have an infinite range, by the way. You need to, if you want to have a longer range, there's some items you have to craft, which we'll probably get to eventually. But for now, we're in pretty good shape. So you're here, you're absorbing energy, you're transmitting your energy, and this thing is charging up and sending your energy into here. Cool. Pretty nifty, right? Different packets of energy are represented different ways. This is the light energy. The straight up beam that we saw earlier was the neutral energy. And there's a different mechanic that, a little visual graphical representation for dark energy once we get a dark nexus built, which we'll probably build, like I said, over here somewhere. So the Arcane Reconstructor is awesome because it can repair things. Anything that has vanilla damage values. So what do I mean by that? Anything that just takes a damage like a normal tool. So for example, our pickaxe here and our sword, they do not take damage in the way a normal tool does. They have a different way of doing damage. And if you're not super familiar with the mods, it might not be super obvious to you how things work. But worst case, you can try throwing it in there. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, oh well, no harm, no foul. So you can see this thing is slowly but surely repairing. Our goggles are revealing. Awesome. Now, if we want, we can upgrade this machine, and I'm pretty sure I want, so let's see. So there's a couple ways we can upgrade him. Basically, your options are mana focus or charge focus. Mana focus is something along the lines of can store more mana in the machine. If we take a look at our items list here for foci, we can see mana focus used to decrease the cost of operation. Okay, so it makes it cheaper. In the case of essence conduits and calefactors, they increase the rate at which deficit is shed naturally over time. I'll get to deficit later. Charge focus is probably what I want. This thing is going to increase the rate at which a machine performs its task. So it's going to run faster. So I might want to get a couple standard foci. So let's get a bunch of redstone, gold, and glass. We've got that. And the charge foci had glass around it. Okay, might have enough glass, but maybe we'll request a couple extra. So glass, we'll get like 20 AU. Redstone, I'll get like 30. Gold, I'll get like 3, should be plenty. And let's get to crafting these things. So we're going to want 3 of them, because that's how much any machine can take. Okay. And then we're going to upgrade these guys to standard foci. And then we're going to take the standard foci and upgrade it to a charge focus. Charge foci, or any upgrades for that matter, the charge or the mana foci, go right up at the top there. Look how much faster it's going to be repairing now that we've gone ahead and installed those. Well, it's not repairing at all. I assume that's because we're out of juice. Yep, pretty much out of power. So it'll run faster, but since we really didn't let this thing charge up much over time, we're not, too good a shape. So I'm going to let this thing continue to charge. It'll slowly build up some, energy, essence energy in here, and then it'll build up in here, and then it'll build up in here, and we'll have a good supply of it just after a bit of time has passed. Cool. So we've got a pretty good setup. So we've got a way to repair items. Let's swing back to one of the first things that I started messing around with, and that was you. Remember, anytime we wanted to enchant something and then disenchant it, it damaged the item, right? So the reason I got started messing around with this stuff is I wanted to be able to repair items pretty quickly, especially after I've done what I just did, which is to, go ahead and strip the enchants off and then being able to repair them the way I just did. So that looks pretty cool. How are we for experience, by the way? What I do need to set up is lamps of growth in here, but for now I'll let you start doing your thing, and I'll dump some experience that I happen to have as well. There you go. Cool. So plenty of experience starting to build up in here, looking pretty sharp. I think we'll be able to start having some really nice enchanted items pretty soon. One thing I'm going to want to start making soon is some armor, because my armor is kind of pathetic, if I do say so myself. Goggles are revealing, boots of the traveler, not the most efficient armor rating a player could have. So we're definitely going to want some armor, and the good news about this is Ars Magica actually adds some really cool and interesting armor. I don't know if it's listed under items yet. Let's see. Not yet, but I can show you an NEI. I think it's called Mage, something like that. There it is. Mage hood, robes, leggings, and boots. These guys have really neat mechanics, which I'll definitely want to show you. There's also the battle mage armor, which is also pretty neat. We'll take a look at it all, don't worry. But we're going to be using that pretty soon to have a very cool and interesting enchantment room. So this room will serve to do a lot with enchanting. We're going to have pretty much all the options to be able to enchant things however we want. Let's take one more quick look down in our room, and then I think we have to wrap up the episode, guys, because we've pretty much hit the wrapping up point here. But you'll also notice, look, no more particle effects, and we're not gaining essence. That's because it's nighttime. Oh well. If we were really concerned, we could set up another light nexus with moonstone. That would be kind of cool. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to worry about it. What I want to do is sleep through the night. And for now, this is Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We've got a lot of infrastructure really quickly built for Ars Magica. So if you guys haven't messed around with Ars Magica in the past, hopefully you learned a lot this episode about how to do it. But now that we have this infrastructure in place, we'll be able to do a lot with Ars Magica very soon. One of the things I like to do is be able to travel around to different locations in the world. Like when I had my quarry set up, we might be using gateways for that, at least early on. All right, we'll see. All right, Direwolf20 signing off. Like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this, and take it easy.